One of the reviewers actually said the same thing, and I respectfully disagree. Actually, you know, I don't think this film could happen in any major American city because I think that Leonard would be diagnosed much quicker, but in a place like Hong Kong and being Eurasian, I think that it's much easier for him to slip through the cracks. And sort of live on the fringes. So it could never happen in New York, right? They know right away, you know. So that was a big part of it, but also because, you know, a lot of people sort of think that I wanted to make this movie because I wanted to shoot a movie in Hong Kong. And the truth is, yes, I want to shoot a movie in Hong Kong, I want to shoot a movie in lots of places, but really, Hong Kong, if it hadn't been right for the character, we would have shot it somewhere else, you know. But being, you know, Jason, who he is, and his life experience, and the character that we, you know, essentially conceived and created together, Hong Kong just arose as, or very organically, as the only location. And it's not the Hong Kong that a lot of people know, you know. It's very much sort of the expat, you know, side of Hong Kong, and which is, you know, typically the area where I spend most of my time. So
it's not the touristy sort of like postcard kind of feel.
You know, that's a really good point, because it was always designed to film the city in a way where we didn't have these picture postcard, you know, travel log establishing shots. I always wanted Hong Kong to be in the background and Jason to be in the foreground, the character to be in the foreground. I wanted, you know, the 235 to treat Jason's face as the landscape, not, you know, the city.
Nonetheless, and so thank you for being a part of it. And Dax, yeah.
I'm Dax again. I'm writer, producer, director, and thanks again everybody for coming out and for staying. Let's see. Well, let's move on.
Yeah, we'll just do a quick intro and then we'll dive into some.
For coming. I just wanted, before we run out of time, also thank Wes Leon for moderating this for us. He's a fellow filmmaker, he's an actor and director.
Thank you.
He just world premiered his. So we really appreciate it.
Until next time.
Hello, I'm Guy Livnay, cinematographer and producer too, of Jasmine, and it was a great experience to hear Eugenia.
Yes, I'm Eugenia Yuan, and I play Grace.
Hi, my name is James Su. I'm one of the associate producers.
Hello, I'm Lisa Fowl. I'm one of the sound designers.
Hi, I'm Shai Rozov, composer.
And I'm Harry Duyan, key grip.
All right, so I guess the first question is going to be either for Dax or Jason, whoever wants to dive in. So I hear that this movie has been 10 years in the making. And I guess if you guys want to just tag team on the answer for this question, why this film, why so long, and if you can tell us the evolution of this story and this journey.
I first met Jason in Hong Kong in 2005, and we were introduced by Byron Mann over dinner because Byron and Jason had just started a movie together. And from the moment that I met him, this little voice in the back of my head just started like screaming at me, and I had a character in my head for a while, but I didn't have a story. And this little voice was basically like, if you ever decide to get around to fleshing out that character, this is the guy who should bring him to life. So a few months later, Jason was in LA shooting Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, and we met for lunch, and I basically said, look, I've got this crazy idea. I've got a character, but I don't have a story. Why don't we come up with a story together? You'll play the lead, I'll direct, and we'll shoot it on the streets of Hong Kong. And he was in, and then it just, you know, took another 10 years.
Jason, do you remember that lunch?
I do actually. Yeah, it was at a Thai restaurant in Soho in Hong Kong, and yeah, I mean, 10 years. I mean, I don't even know where to begin.
What was going through your mind? I mean, I'm sure as an actor, you know, when someone says, I've got a part for you, you say yes immediately, right? But you're having lunch with Byron, and obviously it's you know.
Yeah. That's a good question, and truthfully, I actually was at a stage in my career where I really didn't want to do any more acting, and actually I don't know, but I actually kind of resented Dax for a while for like making me like go through this, I was like, really? Okay, and I thought to myself, I'll leave it all out there. I'll leave nothing on the pitch. I'll leave it all out on game day, and then I'll be done.
Yeah.
So over the next 10 years, you guys were just corresponding over phone calls, emails, and how did the story...
Well, we actually started writing in 2007,
okay.
I think, and then we actually, we shot it in, I find it hard to even admit this, but when did we shoot this?
We actually shot the film at the tail end of 2009. It was a 24-day shoot.
Yeah.
And then we started editing the film with Chris in early 2010, and then unfortunately I had several members of my family passed away within like a 6-month period of time, and I was so distraught that I really couldn't work on the film on any kind of like ongoing basis, so I took some time away and came back to it.
And this is after the film was in the can. This is after it's been shot. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the post-production in a little bit, but let's go back to the beginning. Jason, if we can just continue with you. The camera's following you throughout the entire movie,
right?
And that's intentional, obviously. And tell me about that process, your approach to this character, to a short shoot.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, obviously when I prepare for a role, normally I get a script, I get the role and I think about it and do all the work that you do as an actor, right, with a script. But in many ways, because I was so intimately involved in the creation of the story, the character, the writing of it, the thinking about it, the talking about it, the just watching references together with Dax, it became all part of
the prep.
Part of the prep. And one of the things was that one of the films that Dax was most influenced by, the film that he basically gave to me the first time when he pitched this idea to me, was a movie by Lodge Carrigan called Keen. And I remember outside of the, I want to say cuadro. What's cuadro in English? I'm thinking in Spanish. Painting, around a painting.
Outside the frame.
Outside the frame.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we would do takes that were like 8-10 minutes long.
Right.
And we did a lot more. I mean, actually, the script is much longer.
Right.
So we did a lot of the stuff that was outside of the frame.
And I'm sure you guys shot out of sequence.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of moments where, the subtext is so real for the audience. But for you, when you're shooting out of sequence...
In the role, so...
Sure.
So.
Great job. Can we talk about how you guys assemble the cast and the key crew in terms of, obviously, cinematography and also Grace and the rest of it? How did you guys go about that?
What's interesting is that this year we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the film Yellow, which Chris directed and wrote and edited, I think, as well. And so we worked together 20 years ago.
Ken Kashmir edited it.
Sorry. I don't want to take credit away from Ken. And then actually I worked with Guy on Better Luck Tomorrow. Guy was the gaffer. The light was doing lighting on Better Luck Tomorrow. So there's like definitely the DNA of like Asian American cinema right here. And I think Dax went to school at AFI with Guy, and that's how they got talking. And then of course I've been a huge fan of Eugenia since since I first met you. And so I think when we wrote, we even started thinking about Grace, there was no one else in mind. We wrote it specifically for her.
This microphone was supposed to work. Do you guys want to add anything to the rest of the key crew and cast here in terms of how you guys got involved?
Well, I think they just explained how we got involved.
Yeah.
Just that I have to say that filming, with this team in Hong Kong was a life-changing experience. And also, there were times where, in the beginning, first week of the photography, we would stop shooting because we worried that something's wrong with Jason, and he's not okay. Like he went overboard, and then we said, okay, never cut.
Yeah.
Because that is acting.
Right.
We really, we tried to stop me jumping out of a window, but no, I'm guys, I'm acting.
Yeah.
It's like, so it was a real, experience. We really, we are the first people who kind of experienced that. And it could be like in a little hotel room, 20th floor in Chunky Mansions, and we actually are breaking up the real room.
Right.
Thank God the hotel keepers were good people, because really, this is real. This is very much some of the best acting I've experienced. Out of 25 movies I've shot.
So tell me quickly, and I'm sure the audience here wants to know, tell me the difference, tell me about shooting in Hong Kong, shooting an indie film in Hong Kong. How is that different from shooting in the States and UK? And talk to me about, I don't know how, in terms of unions, permits, are the police kind of supportive? Are you guys guerrilla making it?
Well, I'm a union member
Right.
in the States.
Right.
But over there, it was not a union film. This is was a very small film.
Right.
Very small. It was a family film. So
Yeah.
it's really, I don't know how to explain it. It's not the same. What permits? I don't know. Do we have permits?
No.
We don't talk about these things. One thing.
Yeah.
I know how you said the cameras were following him. There's only one camera. It just has to be everywhere.
Right.
There's one camera
Right.
here. Singular vision. It's very specific. There might be two characters, but there's one camera.
What camera did you guys shoot with?
It's a red camera. It was the original red.
And you guys shot in 2010?
No, 2009. So
yeah.
we shot on a beta film. It was really not a sure thing. We took a risk on it, and it paid off.
Yeah.
Better than a stills camera. We actually had the camera from the US.
Right.
It was too hard to find in Hong Kong. But anyway,
anyone want to add to
sound, music, Chris?
Yeah. Well, let's actually, if we can talk a little bit about post-production. I know that post-production, obviously, from Dax's story, that you hit a little bit of a hiccup in your personal life, and things stopped. 2010, now it's 2007. This premiered festival circuit in 2016? 15. Tell me about the journey of post-production.
Yeah, so Dax touched on some of it, but basically, in a nutshell, Jason introduced Dax and I first. He pushed us together, and we eventually hit it off pretty well. Things started out fairly normally. I think within 2 weeks we had our first assembly cut of the film, so it was pretty steady pace. But then, as Dax mentioned, things started to happen. We also, I don't know if we ran out of money too, so that was like an issue where we had to do other things and we couldn't go full-time on the project. There was a little bit of a break in between. What I'm getting at, though, basically, is the editing and post-period was like an additional 5 years.
Wow.
So in a way, we took a very unconventional approach. And actually, ironically, obviously, as a filmmaker, you can't really afford to do it this way all the time. But it really helped the project in the end, because we got to really spend a lot of time building the cut of the picture. We got almost to like a 3-hour length version of the film. And then we got to sort of reverse course and start stripping it down and to just really make committed choices. And after sort of really playing with everything, And because the beauty of it was we weren't on a hard deadline. We didn't have to deliver to anybody. Dax, as a director, producer, could finish the film when he wanted to, And that really empowered us because Dax and I, we would get together on weekends and holidays and vacation times and stuff like that.
And Dax, you're LA based, you're not Hong Kong based.
Yeah, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and sometimes we would get
in the role. So,
sure.
So.
Great job. Can we talk about how you guys assemble the cast and the key crew in terms of obviously cinematography and also Grace and the rest of it? How did you guys go about that?
What's interesting is that this year we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the film Yellow, which Chris directed and wrote and edited, I think, as well. And so we worked together 20 years ago.
Ken Kashmir edited it.
Sorry. I don't want to take credit away from Ken. And then actually I worked with Guy on Better Luck Tomorrow. Guy was the gaffer. The light was doing lighting on Better Luck Tomorrow. So there's definitely the DNA of Asian American cinema right here. And I think Dax went to school at AFI with Guy, and that's how they got talking. And then of course I've been a huge fan of Eugenia since since I first met you. And so I think when we wrote and we even started thinking about Grace. There was no one else in mind. We wrote it specifically for her.
This microphone was supposed to work. Do you guys want to add anything to this, the rest of the key crew and cast here, in terms of how you guys got involved?
Well, I think they just explained how we got involved.
Yeah.
It's just that I have to say that filming, with this team in Hong Kong was a life-changing experience. And also, there were times where, in the beginning, first week of the photography, we would stop shooting because we worried that something's wrong with Jason, and he's not okay. Like he went overboard, and then we said, okay, never cut. Because that is acting.
Right.
We really, we try to stop him jumping out of a window, but no, my guys are acting.
Yeah.
So it was a real, experience. We really, we were the first people who kind of experienced that, and it could be like in a little hotel room, 20th floor in Chungking Mansions, and we actually are breaking up the real room.
Right.
Thank God the hotel keepers were good people, because really, this is real. This is very much, some of the best acting I've experienced. Out of 25 movies I've shot.
So tell me quickly, and I'm sure the audience here wants to know, tell me the difference, tell me about shooting in Hong Kong, shooting an indie film in Hong Kong. How is that different from shooting in the States and UK, and talk to me about, I don't know how, in terms of unions, permits, are the police kind of supportive? Are you guys guerrilla making it?
I'm a union member
Right.
in the States.
Right.
Over there, it was not a union film. Yeah. This is was a very small film.
Right.
Very small. It was a family film. So
Yeah.
it's really, I don't have experience. It's not the same. What permits? I don't know. Do we have permits?
No.
We don't talk about these things. One thing.
Yeah.
I know how he said the cameras were following him. There's only one camera. It just has to be everywhere.
Right.
There's one camera
Right.
here. Singular vision. It's very specific. There might be two characters, but there's one camera.
What camera did you guys shoot with?
It's a red camera. It was the original red.
And you guys shot in 2010?
No, 2009. So
yeah.
we shot on a beta firm. It was really not a sure thing. We took a risk on it, and it paid off.
Yeah.
Better than a stills camera. We actually had made the camera from the US.
Right.
It was too hard to find in Hong Kong. But anyway,
Anyone want to add to,
sound, music, Chris?
Yeah. Well, let's actually, if we can talk a little bit about post-production. I know that post-production, obviously, from Dax's story, that you hit a little bit of a hiccup in your personal life, and things stopped. 2010, now it's 2007. This premiered festival circuit in 2016? 15. Tell me about the journey of post-production.
Yeah, so Dax touched on some of it, but basically, in a nutshell, Jason introduced Dax and I first. He pushed us together, and we eventually hit it off pretty well. Things started out fairly normally. I think within 2 weeks we had our first assembly cut of the film, so it was pretty steady pace. But then, as Dax mentioned, things started to happen. We also, I don't know but we ran out of money too, so that was an issue where we had to do other things and we couldn't go full time on the project. There was a little bit of a break in between. What I'm getting at though, basically, is the editing and post period was an additional 5 years.
Wow.
So in a way, we took a very unconventional approach. And actually, ironically, obviously, as a filmmaker, you can't really afford to do it this way all the time. But it really helped the project in the end because we got to really spend a lot of time building the cut of the picture. We got almost to a 3-hour length version of the film. And then we got to sort of reverse course and start stripping it down and to just really make committed choices after sort of really playing with everything, And because the beauty of it was we weren't on a hard deadline. We didn't have to deliver to anybody. Dax, as a director producer, could finish the film when he wanted to, And that really empowered us because Dax and I, we would get together on weekends and holidays and vacation times and stuff like that.
And Dax, you're LA based, you're not Hong Kong based.
Yeah, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And sometimes we would get kind of vibing on that creative level, and that would sort of give us some source energy for our next day together, So it was a very protracted
artistic
process.
Kind of And Dax, how was that process for you? Because sometimes, artists, we sort of sometimes need the boundaries, we need the deadlines, otherwise we're just going to be tinkering forever. But it sounds like it was a kind of a rewarding process.
it was incredibly rewarding ultimately, but it was really hard at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just really, 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 really lucky that Chris stayed with me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of editors, you know, they do their 6 weeks or 8 weeks or, you know, whatever it is, and then they move on to something else.
Right.
And Chris's level of commitment on his film was just extraordinary, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
Yeah.
And so, so the fact that he stuck with me through all of that, you know, was just incredible. And then, not only that, when I came back to the film, there were, you know, we had already had a working cut, and it was pretty good. But when I watched it again, I saw some things in there that they felt like weaknesses, maybe because of what I'd been through personally. And so I wanted to kind of tear it apart and start over, and we did. And it's funny because the cut changed quite a bit, but it was still always about the same thing. And in a strange way, I felt it was truer. It was
Right.
more real.
Between all the cuts, were you trying to get to a length? Were you guys trying to get to a certain?
No, I was never thinking about length.
Right.
Ever. It
Was
was
it-
just what's
yeah.
the best movie we can make.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And but you know, I think some of our greatest moments and biggest breakthroughs came from having that extra time. And you know, because you can have extra time and not take advantage of it, or you can have extra time and take advantage of it. And so putting it down and
Right.
returning to it, like any piece of writing, for example, was incredibly helpful. And like Chris said, that some of our, you know, just spending time together, not editing the movie, watching the new world and talking about moments that Malik
Right.
captured, you know, these butterflies, you know, and just
Right.
saying, you know, developing that shorthand. Was
That's really a confident kind of a step to take, because one of the things that I love about this movie is that it has one voice, you know, and you don't see that in films, especially indie films. And I think the writing, the performance, the color grading, the cinematography, the sound design, you know, music, everything just had one voice. And to know that you guys took 10 years to create this movie, took another 5.5 years to go through post-production, let the film sit there through multiple cuts, and still come up with something that is very kind of uniform, I think is commendable, you know? I'm sure you guys have seen it many times. This is my first time, and I thought it's one clear picture, so I really think that for what it's worth, you know, it was worth the wait, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can we, so Lisa, can we talk about the sound design aspect of it, and how, you know, when I was watching the film, I thought, you know, Jason is you know, isolated in this world, but in terms of sound, you're either listening to the sound of the city, or Foley, you know, or there's silence, or there's score. Can you talk to me about how you kind of worked with Dax and came up with what you came up with?
Yeah, sure. It was really a pleasure to work with Dax because it was such a psychologically and creatively collaborative experience. The conversations that we would have studying the aspects of trying to express schizophrenia and forms of an inner world, but using the environment without giving it away, and using the environment around you with things that could be logical to actually show when Leonard was overwhelmed, or when he was lonely, or when he was becoming deluded versus when he was grounded and focused.
Yeah.
So it was really awesome.
Yeah. And this is Eric, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also one of the sound designers,
Yeah.
re-recording engineer.
Yeah.
One thing that you said, one voice.
Yeah.
I like that word.
Yeah.
Now, some of the sound design we gave this was for character and sound. And also a lot of research did with schizophrenics.
Right.
So you hear like little voices, whispers, and that was a nice little character itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think for me, you know, not knowing anything about the movie, I thought it's a movie about mourning, about grief. And then as the movie started progressing, I thought the fact that the camera's following him, and you start to wonder whether he's a reliable narrator, you know? And then you start to see what kind of person Byron is, and you start to say, you know, he's a bad guy, you know? And so I really like how the sound design sort of didn't give anything away, but always kind of had a carrot dangling in front of you, you know? So it was great. Shai, can you talk about the music a little bit?
Sure. So when we started scoring it, there was no sound design yet. The movie it was just the raw, whatever you guys did in the edit. And at first, Dax said he's not sure he wants any music. And then he started describing this big orchestral effects and stuff, and I'm like, and how much money do we have? And he said, 0. I said, okay, well, that's not going to happen. So we ended up going with this electronic sound kind of out of necessity, because we just didn't have the money. And as we started scoring it, he kept asking for more and more. And I would say, no, once you have sound design, you don't need music here. He's like, no, I want music here. So I actually ended up writing a lot of music that thankfully later got taken out once sound design did its job. Yeah. But I remember one story that, like, this also went over a few months because I was working on other projects because I had to pay my bills, and Dax would come pretty much once a week, and I'd show him 1 or 2 things. And I remember, like, second or third session or something, I played him a scene, I don't even remember what scene. And he's watching the scene, and I'm like, I think this is working, he's really into it. And my son walks into the room and goes, Daddy? And Dax almost jumped out of his clothes. I remember at that point thinking, okay, I think this is going to work.
He's in.
But again, about not giving anything away, Dax, and he can speak more to this, but there were constant conversations. I'd play him something, and it was, okay, so if you're a first-time viewer, I see how this works emotionally, but is it dark enough or sinister enough? Or if I do it, it's like, is it too dark? Is it giving something away? And it was constantly almost like trying to write 2 scores in one, in a way. So it works for a first-time viewer, but if you watch it a second time, you'll start going, oh, there's that motif, the screwed up Leonard motif hiding in there. And there's the Jasmine theme, and Jasmine's never in the movie, and you know, other than pictures of her grave.
Right.
So we have a Jasmine theme that carries throughout. Every time he puts down a flower, for example, same theme and melody. And so it was about bringing that aspect of it into it. It was a really interesting process. And again, just this long, ongoing back and forth, sometimes doing 5, 6, 7 versions until it was just right.
And also mixing it in with the city sounds, you know, which is really nice.
Well, a lot of it was by design, very sound designy music. So there's a lot of places that Lisa had all my music when she started working. Yeah. So there's a lot of places where she literally just takes over, and they get out of the music much earlier than the way I'd written it, because you don't need it anymore. So it was by design meant to be able to easily sneak in and out of sound design, and for it to be hard to tell sometimes, is this sound design, is this music?
Right.
Which was also a cool challenge.
Too, to have music first. That's something we normally don't get, is music first. It really helped us out a lot having the music first, and then Lisa took over the design. It really complemented itself.
Yeah.
Actually, the score actually plays a role. You asked how we each got on board.
Yeah.
When Eric Klein from DPS sent me the film to watch to see if I wanted to come on board to do sound design, I was watching it and I only made it to about 32 minutes in.
It had 10 music
when the cello sequence was playing, because Shai had already been scored through it.
Oh, I see.
The cello sequence, that cue played when they were putting her stuff away in the boxes.
Yeah.
And I stopped it. And I was just like, okay, I want to be on board. You know, this is cute. I have to work with this. I have to work with this film. So I called. What you're not supposed to do, you're supposed to watch the whole thing, so you don't know what you're signing up for, right? And you know, I just said yes. So
is that an emotional reaction that's something that you need to scratch as an artist, that you're like, okay, you haven't figured it out? Is that what?
It's the excitement that when you see something that's eloquent and has a type of depth that you can really play with. That it becomes, when you know that the budget doesn't matter to you at all, and it's the sort of thing that you would do anyways because it would be so fun. That's what happened. And so,
Dax and Guy, do you guys want to speak a little bit about just the look of the film in terms of the picture and the color and the fact that you guys have short lenses almost, so you're either looking at Jason or you're looking at something else. I noticed that things are always sort of, you can't really see the entire picture, you know. What is there anything that you want to add to, or is it you guys just, hey, let's just shoot it now because we got light?
No, there's planning. Believe me, there's planning. I arrived in Hong Kong the first time in my life a few weeks before we started shooting.
Yeah.
And, it grew on me instantly. I mean, Dex was kind of shocked actually. That after 2 days, he's trying to show me around. I'm like, no, it's here. This is that. And he's like, it's not fair. I've been here 2 months, and now in 2 days you're a local, you know. But I love the city, and we also, Dex felt very strongly it should be a widescreen film.
Yeah.
And Hong Kong is a vertical city. And that, I think, that contrast plays amazingly well.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, made the film, because, you see photographs of Hong Kong, and a lot of them are
right.
vertical. They're not
Is it 235? Is it?
It's 235.
It feels wider than that for some reason.
That's good.
Yeah, maybe it's because of vertical space.
That's good. And, we used basically, we bought the camera from LA and everything else was from Hong Kong, and we used very little lighting. It's very, small units. There's no big lights. There's no big crew. There's no generator. It's very, it's very personal.
Yeah.
The film is very personal. I mean, it's everything is very close.
Yeah.
Very, intimate.
Yeah.
And I think you feel that. And also, one thing I like to say that everybody's been saying is we're doing the color of the film at the end, and we did it over time as well. It wasn't like one chunk, which is what you normally do because you're on a budget schedule and you have to hit those points. Here it was okay when there's free time at the color.
Oh my God.
We had the same person do all the color correction and the visual effects as well, I think. So whenever we could get in with him in the theater, we did it in the theater. So we didn't do it on a little monitor. We did it actually in the theater.
Oh, wow.
We're very lucky. And then every stage we think we're done, we look at it again and it could be better. And then at the end, I remember the last time we watched it together in the theater, and I said, okay, we're done. So Dex is like, okay, we're really done?
Yeah.
And we were like, can it be any better? I said, no, I think this is it. We were there. It wasn't a question of we don't have more time.
Right.
Or,
it just felt right.
Yeah. Even our post-producer Eric Klein, halfway through color correction, I said, okay, how many hours do we have? And he said, well, officially we have this many hours in color. And I said, well, really, off the record. Is it off the record? When you're done. That doesn't happen.
Do you have his number?
I think he ran off. Anyway, thanks.
Dax, so in movie you really find the final product in post-production, in editing, and for someone who created this thing over lunch and over 10 years, what has ended up on film that has surprised you in a way that you never expected? And if you don't mind sharing, what are some things that you really, really wanted in the film that you just couldn't get? I don't know. Because that's an interesting journey that is really almost very esoteric for artists because you never really get to share that, so.
It's a really good question. The first part was what were the surprises?
Yeah, some good surprises that you didn't expect or plan.
Well, first of all, just getting all these people up here to say yes, was a big one. And then, and getting them all sort of, there were many processes in this movie that I had never done before, even though I'd worked on other movies. And sort of, for example, one thing we didn't touch on is the number of mixes that we did. And when Chris and I finished Picture Lock, one of the things he warned me about was, now when you get in to do sound, you're going to have a limited amount of time, so you need to know exactly what you want. And that's not really the way I work. You hear directors say, are always complimented because they know exactly what they want, they know exactly when they've got it, things like that. And, I kind of think that's bullshit, frankly, because I don't necessarily know what I want. I just know what I don't want.
Right.
And I have to, try things to figure out what I want and experiment and get lost a little and find my way back. And
Right.
and that's what Chris and I did in the editing. And so when we moved into post and we were doing sound and stuff, you know, I was worried. I was like, how am I going to be able to continue this process and be true to the film and get the best when I have a limited time frame? And fortunately, Eric Klein was able to schedule it in a way that we could do it, put it down, do it, put it down. And I think, how many mixes did you do, Eric?
17 different mixes.
Wow.
Is that real? 17?
Yeah.
I thought it was 4. Just goes to show you where my head was, you know. But you know, it allowed us to explore, and I think the film wins as a result. So that was a very pleasant surprise because I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
Another one was, you know, when we were shooting the film, I remember we came to the scene where Jason has the breakdown in the hotel room, and that was a week into the shoot. And, you know, it had been a very rough week because everybody was kind of finding their footing, and
Sure.
a lot of people hadn't worked together before. Everything was new to me. And but I remember when it came time to shoot that scene, you know, we cleared the set, and so it was just Jason, myself, Guy, the focus puller, and the sound guy. That was it. And in the script, it didn't say Jason breaks down or Leonard breaks down. It said Leonard is tossing, comma, turning, comma, hurting.
Mm.
Well, obviously, as an actor, you know, you can interpret that many ways.
Sure.
And so I said to Guy, I think, I don't know what he's going to do, just keep him in focus, right? Which was kind of a mandate for the overall shoot, you know. We don't always know what Jason's going to do, but let's try to keep him in focus. And then...
You have a reputation now, Jason.
And so, you know...
It became the poster. I mean, that scene became the poster, so
Right.
you know, obviously...
And I said, Jason, I think Leonard would be naked in this scene, you know? And so, you know, he's never shy about taking his clothes off.
All right, fine.
You got the job, you got the job.
But you know, Jason started doing the scene, and you know, we had an empty card and a full battery, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I don't even know truly if Jason knew what was going to happen. But you know, the reason the scene ended was because I got scared, you know, and I called cut. I didn't know that it was going to destroy the hotel room. I didn't know any of that.
I mean, he did.
Huh?
He did this to build that.
He did. I didn't know he would, though, you know, and so that was really scary,
Yeah.
you know. But ironically, I think he was about halfway out the window when I finally said, cut, please, you know, like, because I was really worried he was going to hurt himself. And, I mean, it's no joke. It was the scariest moment I've ever had on a film set. But ironically, after we shot that scene, a week into the schedule, I felt like I'd found the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now I know how far down this character goes.
Yeah.
And that informed me for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
And Jason, do you want to either talk about that scene? I think we can probably open it up, but also, you know, playing schizophrenia. I mean, you didn't know. I mean, as a character, tell me that. I mean, you're looking at through this lens. You believe that she's your wife. Tell me about all that.
You know, actually, my acting coach is here, Jeannie Hartman, sitting over there, and we worked for many years together. You know, I remember, obviously, we wrote the script together, and at one point I remember even speaking to Jeannie about this, and for a while, even though I was part of the writing process, I was confused about how, as an actor, I should approach this. Right. And then, at a certain point, I thought, I don't have to approach it anyway. Like, I just have to believe that I am Leonard Ho.
Mm.
And then it just became a lot clearer to me. And so that when those moments where I do realize that I'm maybe not Leonard, then I can really be honestly surprised by that. You know? And I can just let it affect me, let myself experience it.
Yeah.